Hi everybody, welcome to Gear in Situ. This is going to be my first video introducing this channel. Now that doesn't mean this is the first time I've created content about EDC. However, this is going to talk a little bit more about the goal I hope to accomplish with this channel and a little bit about the philosophy and approach of EDC. Now, first of all, a little bit about myself, or at least the channel for now. I created the channel, or this idea, rather, of Gear in Situ, hoping to sort of portray how you would use a lot of the equipment that we have at our disposal in different situations. Whether it's your knife, your saw, fire steel, lighters, solar panels, whatever they are, I was hoping to get to that. Now, granted, a lot of the content that I've created over the last year and a bit over on the Gram has not always covered that. There's a lot of tabletop stuff, which is all right too, and I'll probably continue doing stuff like that. But the objective is, and I hope you all enjoy the ride and join me on it, is to get to the point where we're showing a lot of this stuff in action. Hence gear, this equipment, in situ, so in situation or in action, so to speak. All right, so I know this is not a new area. I know this is not a new topic. Lots of people have spoken about it. There's plenty of videos out there on this. But I feel that I might be able to contribute a bit of a unique sort of discussion or a unique view of this. Let's start with a little discussion on what is EDC. Really, EDC could be anything. EDC simply stands for everyday carry. Now, I know a lot of people have some strong feelings about what constitutes everyday carry. In other words, some people feel that it's got to be every single day, otherwise it's not EDC. And I can understand that. But by the end of this video, I hope I can make a case for there's more to it than simply that. Anyways, so EDC stands for everyday carry, things that you're going to have on you, more or less, whether it's immediately on your person, in your pockets, or in your belt, or whatever, or in your pack that you take with you, your bag, your briefcase, your purse, your travel messenger bag, or whatever. Everyone really has an EDC. People have their phone, wallet, keys.
With me is my phone, wallet, keys, yeah, phone, wallet, keys.
That's something that everybody usually has. A phone, a wallet, and keys. And nowadays you're seeing a lot of phones are even replacing that by being able to store your credit cards, etc. Now, from there, for the average person, it might push into other stuff. You might have pens along with you, right? In addition to pens, you might want to carry a flashlight, right? In parts of the world, it gets dark very easily, or it doesn't even have to get dark very easily in many places. Just in your house, flashlight might come in handy. Now, beyond that, for example, one very basic one that many people would argue, I would argue, is a very important one, would be some form of a pocket knife. Something that you can use for whether you're opening up your lunch, prepping your lunch, opening up a box, mail, etc. There are all sorts of knives and choices. People have their preferences, and we'll get into that. But here I want to make the point that now, depending on who you are, what you do, your EDC can vary quite a bit. For example, you very well could leave the house. You've got your phone, wallet, keys. You'll have a pen maybe with you. But let's say you're a cyclist and you commute everywhere. Your EDC is going to look very different. You will every day carry with you a bike lock, possibly, your helmet, some gloves, and a multi-tool, maybe a pump, maybe a patch kit. Your EDC will change considerably from someone else. I started off this way to show how dramatic a difference your EDC might be from another person who, as far as he's concerned, or she's concerned, that's her EDC. Now, what about someone, for example, who's a first responder? Their EDC is going to vary considerably as well. on them, they're going to carry things like PPE, personal protection equipment. They're going to have their sort of their emergency kits. They're going to have, medical equipment. Their response kits might vary in size as well. And again, this depends on the type of first responder. A paramedic's going to be very different than perhaps in my case, a wilderness first aid responder. Some people, in addition to the tools they're going to carry some entertainment, right? A book could be someone's EDC. They very well could read every single day. And I know people like that. One of my daughters is like that. My wife's like that. To the point where you will always find a book with them. Let's say they're a writer and they want to capture notes. They're going to have some form of notebook, right? So your kit will change. Let's say you're a technician or a contractor of some sort. Your kit will be different. You will have perhaps some very specialized tools with you. Let's say you're a machinist and you take orders on the fly or whatever it might be. You're going to have some very specialized type tools in your kit, and that's going to be part of your EDC. So at this stage, I want to make a case that, your EDC can vary. But what about if, for a bit you are, a technician, you go out to contract sites, your EDC very well would include some tools, perhaps some survey equipment, but maybe in the evening you have a hobby. Maybe in the evening you have, you like geocaching, for example, or tracking or something like that. You're going to have some navigation type equipment. Maybe your hobby includes photography. So you're going to have some, photography equipment alongside that. So even though maybe your daily activity or your daily, I guess, for lack of a better word, your career would stipulate or would require you to have a certain set of tools or a certain set of EDCs, so to speak, on you. Some of your hobbies might have an impact on that. If you're an adventurer of sorts, you might have a GoPro on you. You might if you really need a hot cup of tea or coffee or cocoa wherever you're going, you'll probably want to have something to prepare that. Again, not necessarily if you're in the city and you're going to college and you're just outside your classroom. You're not going to fire up your pocket rocket to make some coffee or tea, but someone who might be going in the woods. Alternatively, many of us would actually just carry our drinks with us in a thermos. So our EDC can be very diverse. But our EDC very well can include sort of watches and wrist computers or smart watches or whatever you want to call them. And then some people go a little bit further, right? It's not so much about what you need necessarily, but it can be about what you would, what you appreciate, what you enjoy. Right? I very well might need to have a battery pack, some adapters for my laptop, but I don't necessarily need to have my Scarab keyring, or my son doesn't necessarily have to have or carry with him his fidget spinner, right? So these are things that, take our EDC outside of the realm of, okay, this is necessity, I need it, and into things that just, as they say, spark joy, right? Now, other times you might be carrying with you things that you don't necessarily need at the moment. They don't necessarily bring you joy. It's more an idea of being in a state of preparedness. And I'll explain that. The idea of preparedness is, what if I'm in a situation? I don't necessarily need to have a knife where I'm at this moment, but what if I do? I don't need to have sort of a beefy multi-tool or a small multi-tool for that matter. I don't need a set of pliers with me, as I'm getting on the bus, going somewhere. But what if I do, right? And this is where we start getting into a little bit more about this idea of preparedness, right? Some people want to be prepared. I'm not necessarily going to need to start a fire anytime soon, although, for example, people who smoke, they might want to have a lighter with them. But what if I need to, right? I won't need to always break some glass, but what if I need to? What if I want to be prepared for that? So this is a bit more the utilitarian approach or idea about EDC, to be prepared, right? You might want to have a pry tool with you. You might want to have a screwdriver at a moment's notice. Again, not always expecting to have a splinter or the need for a tweezer, or tweezers, that is, but there they are. We might. The case I'd like to make is, I'll go out in the morning, I'll leave the house in the morning, and I'll take with me, whether it's my sunglasses or my kid or my wife is wearing their reading glasses, their eyeglasses. But at the same time, I'll want to be, prepared if I'm out too late and it gets dark very quickly, especially this time of the year up here in the north. I'll want to have something that'll help me illuminate my way. And then from that sort of preparedness approach comes the fun part. You see, people will want to be prepared. They will have, their tough knife, whether it's a knife they actually use, or it's a knife they want to have as a tool, a preparedness tool. But then you can branch in a little bit and get something, a bit more refined, a bit more, eye candy, or in this case, ear candy even. And that's where things get really exciting. I mean, I could very well have a very simple notebook, moleskin, whatever it might be, but then if I can get the wood veneer finished one, that's much nicer, right? You start enjoying it. You enjoy the tools. You enjoy the utility a bit more, right? Some people might enjoy, your basic knife. They want a knife, right, that can open and cut something. And then you've got people who like, to find things that are a little more unique, a little more interesting. And that can take us into some very weird recesses sometimes, starting off with perhaps, just wanting to customize and modify the tools, the knives, the equipment that you have with you. Just make it a little more personalized. And sometimes that takes you into, in my case, really wanting to, sort of capture a lot of very unique things. And you start, picking up very obscure type knives that I'm not sure anyone, certainly not me, could make a case for it being, this is the tool that I'm going to rely on. As I'm talking about all this, and I've mentioned, the various different types of EDC in terms of, what kind of role people have and what kind of things they would normally carry with them. I think, and the case I've been hoping to make is that your EDC can evolve. Your EDC is not exactly limited by, where you are or where you've started off at in your sort of quote unquote equipment gathering, or not necessarily gathering, but your equipment ownership or your equipment use, for a better sense of this. So for example, at some point you might start off, like I say, you've got your phone, wallet, keys.
Phone, wallet, keys.
Next thing you'll need is a passport. No, not a passport. That's something else. Next, you'll want to, you might branch into having a knife, a flashlight, a pen, a multi-tool. And then you'll start realizing that, you know what, there are different parts of this that are important for me. I find that now I'm going to start getting into more bushcrafting. I'm going to get out into the woods more. You might want to opt for some fixed blades. You find that, you know what, a fixed blade's too much, too big or whatever. You think, well, why not a neck knife? And it doesn't end there. The diversity in terms of what you can use and what you have access to. Then you start learning about all kinds of brands. You start thinking about, okay, you've got your basic tools and equipment, like your Leatherman, like your Victorinox, Swiss Army, basic things. And then you start thinking, you know what if I wanted to, have a bit more excitement out of this or accomplish more out of this. And that's where you start looking at maybe some higher end stuff. You start not thinking just about the knife as a utility. You start thinking more about, how well can that tool accomplish what I want it to do? And then you start thinking about, okay, there's a variety in the material and the workmanship and the design and function of these knives. And you start looking into maybe a bit of style for the tools and equipment that you want to carry. Then you might start getting into it so much that you start thinking, you know what, I want some very high-end custom design stuff, like the Z Hunter here. One of a kind. You will not find one of these anywhere, except maybe a gas station. Anyways, so your EDC can not only be a tool for you, it not only can be a utility, it can actually be something that turns into a hobby. And maybe this is the time where it's good for me to start talking a little bit about myself and this channel. For one thing, a lot of the roles that I mentioned earlier are things that I do. I do a lot of mountain biking. I am trained as a wilderness first responder. I do contract technician type work. I'm a big adventurer. I do photography. I travel a lot. I do geocaching. I teach a lot of these skills, survival skills, wilderness skills to youth in camps. So a lot of the equipment that I have, a lot of my EDC will be, first of all, diverse. A lot of times I have things that I use to teach other people about. A lot of times the equipment that I have will be for different roles that I might have. So indeed, in my day job, I'm not going to need, a fire steel and some fat resin wood. But in the afternoon, when I'm going for a hike in our beautiful city where we've got lots of green space, I might need something like that. I might want to take some snacks with me, right? And I'm not going to say snacks are your EDC, but for some people it might be. Some people, they might have a medical condition, or they might have whatever it might be. They might have a need for taking care of themselves beyond just the basic, need to keep in touch, pay for stuff, and unlock your doors, right? So I hope here I've made that case. I know there are some things that I haven't touched on here. I know a lot of people, are very, I think, very passionate. And that's the cool thing about this. People are very passionate about this. You get people who are dedicated to this. They start, people will start customizing and modifying the equipment they have. Then you've got people who start designing stuff from scratch, making their own designs that then get picked up and become, very popular around the world. And I think that's what the cool thing about this is we end up with a community. You end up, sparking joy, not only in yourself, but among your peers, with your friends, your community, and not just with the equipment that you have, with the things you can do with it, or the experiences that they enable you to do. And by no means am I saying you have to have a knife to enjoy a walk in the woods, or you have to have, a fire steel in order to have a good experience camping. Not at all. But they sort of enhance those experiences. And I will say as well, don't let that idea stop you. If you don't have the equipment, you don't have the tools, that shouldn't stop you from going out and enjoying, nature, enjoying your surroundings, having a good time. So do that, right? I hope this video was helpful. I hope if nothing, it introduces where this channel is going and what I hope to accomplish with this channel. Like I said, there's stuff that we didn't touch on. Eventually, I'll probably talk a little bit more about it later, how all this equipment can be organized. How do you, keep it all tidy and accessible? How you might transport all of this. You might have a pack or something like that, and we can talk about that as well in later videos. But like I said, I hope everybody enjoyed this video, and if not that, it was at least a bit of clarification of where we're going with all this. Thanks a lot for watching. I know it was a bit of a long video, but we'll talk to you later. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.